Hello, welcome to Movie in the Making. Today, I wanted to talk about the story of our Christmas movie, which doesn't have a name yet, but maybe we'll talk about that a little bit. With me here today is Jen Bascom and
Hello.
Deborah Dodge.
Hello.
Hello. So these two people wrote this Christmas movie, and without them, we wouldn't be making it.
That's
So,
right.
yeah, it's pretty awesome.
No, without
So,
you, we wouldn't be making it.
well, no, you go on. But Peter saw the script and he fell in love with it and he sent it over to me, and then I fell in love with it, and here we are. So I wanted to talk about how we got here, who you two lovely folks are. Jen, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I am a writer and show director, mainly for Disney Live Entertainment. All their signature experiences throughout the world, anything that pretty much doesn't happen on a property that Disney owns. I am probably the writer or the director of it, if that makes sense. So anything that's
External.
extra, yeah, and anything that's on water, anything that's not on land that Disney owns, if that makes sense. So, it might be a small interaction, one-on-one, intimate interaction with a character from a film that you know and love. It may be a massive hotel in a galaxy far, far away. Or it may be a breathtaking drone and fireworks spectacle in New York City on the Hudson. So,
Wow.
yeah, I get a wide variety of opportunities and toys and IP to play with and continue telling amazing stories for families and chosen families. So I love it.
So is that mostly organizing experiences? You're not writing, it sounds like. It sounds like you're
Oh, she writes.
you're running experiences.
I am writing. I am writing
Oh,
scripts. I'm directing actors. I'm creating a team to develop production, props, sets, lighting choices. Sometimes uh, completely turning around a space that doesn't belong to us, or sometimes on a cruise ship in a space that does belong to us, where we can affect infrastructure and create rooms that we're going to use in multiple ways. So all of those things. It's
so cool. This is like
it's
my dream
vague and
job.
specific. Yeah, it's a kind
Wow.
of dream job. It is. Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
really really
And
lucky.
did you say show director? Is that the same as a showrunner? No.
So for live entertainment, it would be almost like a theater director, if you think of it that way.
Yeah. Okay.
But most of the work that I specialize in is immersive work. So it's anything that doesn't feel like theater, where you are in the story, you are in the movie, you are in the play, where as a guest, I'm experiencing with the character as opposed to sitting passively and watching a character experience something, which is kind of the opposite of filmmaking. So,
Right.
well, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Deb, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I worked in post-production most of my adult life. I worked in film, and then it changed to digital. So my job for many years was watching movies and TV shows before they went out to the public. I've done everything from titles and opticals, negative cutting, editing, Foley work, voiceovers. I've done everything. So during the pandemic, I moved to a little tiny town in Florida where there is no production. And so I moved out here to help my mom. So I work in government now. But on the side, to still stay creative, I got involved in community theater, doing their publicity. I still stay with volunteering with nonprofits, and then I still write with Jen. So that's my connection to creativity. And I want to be her when I grow up.
Wow. So it sounds like you guys both have some theater in your background, or theater, spiritual theater.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has that translated into your work, do you think? Into this work?
Yeah, I think so. I think I believe, I guess we're going to talk a little bit about process. My one of my lives that I lived, I was a professional improv comedian. So I worked unscripted for so long that I'm so comfortable without a script now that it's fun to write a script, right? So, but the process of how Deb and I have worked best is when we get something on paper and then we start kind of riffing to figure out what works. And I think it's because we both have comfort in a theater background that we're able to like dive into some shoes of characters and play a little bit with how they would respond or what would make things worse, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Where we know how to like dive into character a little bit.
Absolutely.
Well,
Yeah.
go ahead, Deb.
No, I think she's absolutely right. Because as we're reading the script, she could be reading one character, I'm reading the other, and we can switch and we can still go into whatever character we're reading, go into their mind and what their mannerisms would be, what their dialect would be, what their idiosyncrasies, anything like that. I think, and we work really well together that way.
Wow. Like, well, now I know why the script is so funny. Because I mean, it's like laugh out loud funny.
Oh,
you know?
that's so nice.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the heartwarming parts of it is, I mean, like Elf. Elf was so
Oh, I
funny,
love Elf.
and
Yes.
we all love Elf here. So, so let's talk about how this film came about. Deb, do you want to tell us like how you guys met?
Okay,
And
so
were you friends?
yeah, oh, absolutely. I met Jennifer through her husband. Her husband was the MC of ceremony. He was the master of ceremonies for all of the events in Burbank, California, and I was the special events photographer. So you really have a small crew. You've got like the DJ, you've got the Parks and Rec lady, you've got me, you've got Jeff, and so we're a small crew. So we get there before all the shows, and we stay till the very end. And so Jeff always brought Jen to all of our concerts. And so she's just this ray of sunshine. She's electric. She's wonderful. And so I just liked her right away. And I've been writing since I was a kid. So I've kept a journal. I've written poetry, short stories. So I've always known that I was a writer. Not that I would show anybody anything, but I wrote my first play when I was in third grade. And so I get ideas right before sleep. Or if I'm driving, and I don't know if that just because something's filtering out and that's when the creative stuff, it's like hypnotism. It's strange, but that's when the ideas come to me. So I did not know that Jennifer was this amazing writer at the time. I just knew she was fun to be around. And I had this idea. It was during one of our summer concerts. It's 110 degrees out. And I had this idea right before sleep. And I had a story, and it was beginning, middle, and an end. And it was about, our characters were originally angels. And we'll talk about the story later, but I had this idea. I only had the beginning, middle, and an end. And it was like a Friday, and the next day was a Saturday. And I couldn't get this story out of my head. And I look up at this. Yeah, I'm looking around because I'm capturing the talent on with my camera and also the crowd, because you get families, and Burbank's very family oriented. It's a lot of fun. So I see her and this big bright smile bounding down the stairs, and I was like. And it was like everything zoomed out. I'm like, I have to tell her my story. I didn't know she was a writer.
Wow.
So I see her and I go,
okay.
yeah, isn't that strange? And so I'm like,
That's so creepy.
I
And
know.
I'm
And
not
I
even
see this,
surprised.
it was,
Great.
it was out of this world. It was, so she comes out and I see her and I walk up to her and I said, and it's so loud because it's rock and roll. And I said, I have to tell you something. I have to tell you a Christmas story. I didn't know she loved Christmas. I didn't know she made these beautiful vintage wreaths that she sells on Etsy. She's amazing. So, so I said, I have to tell you a story. It's so loud. And I said, well, I'll text you. She said, okay. So that Monday this is on a Saturday. So Monday I was taking my car to the mechanic, and there's a little Mexican restaurant next door. I said, why don't we meet there? So we sat down. This is like the first time we hung out. And I said, this is my story. And I said, beginning, middle, and end. And then she goes, I love it. Let me tell you mine. So she tells me a story. I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. So she said, let's start writing. So a couple days later.
That's how it started.
How it started.
Okay. That's how it started right there. Let's start writing.
Okay. So a couple days later, or maybe it was really soon right after, I get to her house. It's 110 degrees. It's Burbank. She's got Christmas music on, the air conditioner on. So it's like 65. She's got iced coffee and her laptop open, and we just start writing. And it just flowed, and our chemistry was great. And her structure, I don't mean to talk so much, but her structure is unbelievable. She's like a textbook here. And so I'll come up with ideas. She comes up with ideas, but her structure is so good. And I think that's why we work. So that's the long and short of it.
Do you want to, there's so much I want to talk about with the film, and we should all talk about, but our listeners don't know the story because we haven't released the script. So maybe you could give like a nice overview of the story.
Sure. The story is about these two misfit, outcast elves in the North Pole, Meg and Misty, or Nutmeg and Mistletoe. And these elves are given one chance to get in Santa's good graces and be put in the toy workshop. But the way that they earn that is by restoring the spirit of Christmas in a small town in America. What they learn is that the spirit of Christmas isn't about magic. It isn't about elves. It isn't about North Pole sprinkles of stardust. It really is about the human spirit. That's what the spirit is. It really is about coming together, about community, about people caring about each other. And so with that lesson, these two elves return to the North Pole and realize that maybe they need to spread that magic, spread that message to their friends in the North Pole as well.
Beautiful. It is a Christmas movie, so we need those themes.
Yeah.
Can you go into a little more detail on the beginning, the middle, and end? Just because I know we're going to talk about some of the I don't know, themes and stuff. Like,
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So
How does Santa's Workshop start, and how does it end, and what's the town like before and after?
Yeah. Meg and Misty are opposites. They are rivals. They are competitive with one another. One of them is a sparkle maker, and the other is what I call a mechanoventer, right? She's mechanical and innovative and an inventor and a tinkerer. And they work across the street from bright, magical, productive Santa's workshop. Where they work, however, is a world that we've not seen before in the North Pole. They work at North Pole Coal Factory and Distribution, where they are giving coal with bags full of naughty kid stockings to characters like Krampus and Belsnickel and La Befana, the old Italian Christmas witch. These are their customers versus adorable, well-behaved children. So all they want is a chance to be part of Santa's workshop where they feel like they're putting good out into the world, not reminding kids that they were terrible for a year. So that's where our story starts.
And they're basically frenemies, right?
They're frenemies. They are. And they are a perfect buddy romance comedy in the fact that if the two of them could just realize that the other has exactly what they need and they could just work together, they would be unstoppable. They would be unlimited. But they're too limited, which is why they're misfits, why they're in coal and they're not in the workshop.
Awesome. Thank you. So Deb, is that where the movie started, or did it start in a different place? Like, how much of that has stayed the same? Did it evolve a lot as you guys were working?
They were like, originally they were angels, but we wanted it to be more secular. And I think angels kind of are perfect, and I didn't want them to be perfect. And Jen and I were like, well, I think you said, let's make them elves, right?
You don't remember? It was so long ago.
It was so long ago. So we made them elves, so that elves they're not perfect and they're ridiculous, but so it starts off, well, their working title was A Christmas Letter, which is kind of bland, but it was just really a little girl writes a letter, and we'd had so many different versions with rewrites, but she writes a letter and she's having trouble in her little town. So, to have a good Christmas story, Christmas has to be at stake. So she writes a letter, and when we originally wrote it, it was like this letter is coming, floating. It has to go to Santa, and it's, oh my gosh, it's an emergency letter, and it's, oh my gosh, this kid needs help. And then we have a Clarence. Can we talk about that?
You can talk about whatever you want. We are opening this up to everyone that cares.
So we love It's a Wonderful Life, and Clarence is such an endearing character, even though he's an angel. So we to pay homage to him, we made our head elf Clarence, and Clarence is like, kind of like a sergeant. He's good cop, bad cop. Santa is good cop, he's bad cop. And so he's got to keep his elves in line. So this is before the coal factory was involved. Now we just had two misfit elves that he had to put them together to go save this little girl in her town. And that's how it started. And so it's evolved a lot, but that was still the spirit behind it, is that these two have to come together. They have to go out and not think of themselves because they're kind of selfish and work together in order to help this little girl in her town, whatever her problem is, which we find out. So it's just, it kind of started in that direction. And basically, I don't know, that's it. That's it.
So it sounds like the major evolution was that they started as angels and they became elves, but maybe there were other, I mean, has it always been about a Christmas letter?
Yes.
Everyone in our town is so sad. Santa, please help us.
Yes.
That's always been there. Yep.
Yes,
Okay.
because it wasn't like she was asking for toys or a new piano or an iPad. She was asking for the spirit in her town to be saved because everyone was having a really hard time. And like, I know, Christmas stories can sometimes be formulaic, but I felt, but that's what's comforting about them as well. Just that you see the underdog and you see someone come in and save them, but they get saved as well. And they learn a lesson. We see the elves evolve as well and become better elves just through kindness.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you approached this film as a pair. So I'm sure some films are, written by multiple people. But how did you divide the writing duties? Was one person focused on dialogue or comedy or jokes and the other one more on structure? It sounds like maybe Jen was a little more structural.
Jen's amazing. You tell him, Jen.
How'd you guys divide things up? And how do you work on one script with two people?
Yeah.
Because Final Draft doesn't really support that too much.
I think Google Drive has been, Google Share has been like a real good friend to the two of us for many, many years.
As an anecdote, the Stranger Things brothers, they work completely in Google Drive.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and they are Google Docs, and they basically, you can just see them. They both are editing live the same document, and they're even in the same room. They're both in the same document, staring at each other.
I love that. Yeah,
it's pretty neat.
I feel like Deb and I kind of did that for a while, especially because we wrote it early pandemic, where we were kind of sequestered in our little homes for a while. So Google was where we both kind of communicated ideas, but then we met on, Zoom and FaceTime and all that stuff quite a bit. And I think in terms of our process, I love an outline. I love a beat sheet. I love understanding, like Deb said, she had a beginning, a middle, and an end. So we know our plot points basically, but how we get there is kind of the adventure. So we were able to kind of mix and match and pull stuff around, and then at some point throw things away or find something better as we went. I also think I speak for myself, but I think I also speak for Deb. We're both very extroverted. So
no,
I think
must be nice.
Yeah. I think writing out loud is a little bit easier for both of us. But in these years later in my life, where I'm writing so frequently, it helps me to capture what I need on paper and then hear it out loud, talk about it. So that there's always kind of a starting ground. So I think that's where we're at in rewrites right now, where we have a beat sheet. We know the structure of the story.
Can you tell us what a beat sheet is?
Sure. Beat sheet is the sort of the points of the script, so that we get a lovely story arc, and everything that you plant a seed for in the end is growing or dying in your story, right? So if I in the beginning say that one of the elves has a stomach ache, it's going to pay off later. Like, everything has to be deliberate. So it's if you think of wearing a necklace with a bunch of little pearls on it, every pearl connects and every pearl comes back around, right? So that's for me what a beat sheet is all the little pearls in this beautiful necklace we want to wear, but we have to make sure every single one of them is necessary. And then when we find one that isn't, it'll become really obvious later, and we just pluck it off so that we can make room for the one that looks the best or feels the best.
So is that like a 1 or 2 page document of just bullet points that just say, Clarence meets the elves for the first time? Next line. That's one beat.
It starts
like
that way.
Like that.
It definitely starts that way. At this point, it's like thoughts and ideas and jibber jabber, because we're deep into it now, and and it's highlighted, and there's strike throughs, and it's, Deb and I, once we talked through the beat sheet and sometimes argued in a positive way, like in a healthy way. Like, sometimes debated or fought for what we thought needed to be done in this beat sheet to accomplish everything we wanted in this story, then we start highlighting who's going to write what scene and then start implementing them into the script and then reading and then sorting out again. So yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. So
structure of story. Yeah.
And
so
we're
that
very
was what Deb was
open.
saying. Is it?
We're
Oh
very
yeah, go
open
ahead.
to each other's ideas. Like, what do you think of this? Not like, oh, this is how it has to be. We're so open about it. And I think that's what's really healthy about our writing relationship. And would you recommend Save the Cat to people?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
Save
it's
the
That's a
Cat.
great book.
Yes, that's got the beat sheet in it. I've got Save the Cat for a novel. I've got every version of Save the Cat by Blake Snyder. It's a really fancy. He's got on audiobook as well. So that really, if you see the formula, that beat sheet that she's talking about, it helps you. You can branch out and kind of see your story, and then you can write all your stuff or do it at the same time.
And I think
So
good old fashioned Joseph Campbell, can't go wrong with the hero's journey. Like, you just can't. It's the way cross culturally we understand story, and it is a version of Blake Snyder's beat sheet. So all of that stuff works so well, and it also, when we're collaborating, it puts us in a place of agreement in at least how we're going to tell the story, how we're laying out the story, I should say, which makes it much easier to write together.
at a risk of taking too much time for this episode, could you give like the 1 minute summary of Joseph Campbell and Hero's Journey for listeners that may not know what that is?
Yes, I can do my best in my.
Dun, dun, dun.
Joseph Campbell analyzed stories across many cultures years ago, like maybe in the 70s, including Star Wars, my favorite Star Wars. And he discovered that every story shares some commonalities, which is what he then created sort of a formula called the hero's journey, where there are these signature moments that happen throughout a story that all of us, like our bodies, physically recognize moments of how a character goes through a story so that we can go on the journey with them. So, for example, ordinary world, right? We all want to understand what the world is before the big thing happens to this hero. Often the hero is then met with a decision, a call to action, and they refuse the call or they go right away and answer the call. And then they cross the threshold into the world where they're going to do the heroic thing. Along the way, there'll be fun and games, there'll be mentor characters, there'll be shadow characters, and they will be helpers and hinderers in the journey. And ultimately, they learn a lesson, which I know in our script, we always talk about the elves return with the elixir, which is a very Joseph Campbell phrase, meaning the lesson that they learn in this human world, they bring back to the North Pole, where it really needs to learn the lesson the most. So Disney movies do a great job of this. Pixar does an amazing job of this. Star Wars, I know I keep mentioning all the all the stuff that Disney owns, but what don't they own? So except for this movie.
Yeah, it's right.
Right.
Yes.
Hands off.
Hands off.
Okay, no, you can buy it if you really want, but
Don't tell them that.
we're not there yet. We're not there yet.
But Joseph Campbell did this amazing job of helping us understand how stories need to be told, how they unfold, and how we respond to them in a way that helps us feel the emotional sort of inhale and exhale of a journey, the art.
It's a really, really nice summary. Thank you very much.
Right. Yeah, for those writers out there, Hero's Journey, just Google that. I feel like a lot of television writers have done versions of it for shorter formatting, and
That's super helpful. I know there's some critics of Hero's Journey that say it's like too formulaic, or shouldn't Hollywood just embrace other types of stories? And
absolutely.
I don't know. I guess I feel it sounds like this is how you build a house. Like it works. It works very well. There's no reason to innovate how you build a house. If you just need a house, there are other ways of building homes. You don't have to do it this way. But if you need, do you have any thoughts on the criticism you always hear about this stuff?
I think any formula is a great starting place. And then from there, you decide what you're keeping, what you're throwing away. But I always think, why would you reinvent a wheel when it works and you can do different things with that wheel? But I think we learn from our, I'm going to get corny here, but we learn from writers from the past. We learn from our ancestry and our artists of yesterday so that we can create new stories for tomorrow. I think that's important, that we honor those lessons and that we continue to innovate as we go. The Joseph Campbell book that I was thinking of is The Hero with a Thousand Faces.
That's the one. Yep.
I
Okay.
think that's the
Heard of
main
that one.
kickoff, but boy, there's so many by now, I'm sure.
So so we have the logline, which is like which we didn't even talk about here. Actually, let's just skip that. This is like too much detail.
I hate
Deb,
log lines.
Do you?
It's
What do you hate about
horrible.
log lines? Oh, describe what they are and then why you hate them.
Oh, because you have to summarize your your story into 2 or 3 sentences and make it make sense and make it interesting to the reader or whoever picks up a DVD that they're going to watch this movie. Or when you're clicking on Netflix, is this going to make it? It has to be interesting, grab you, and then not give it away, but make it interesting and then be concise. I hate them.
So what do you hate about it? Is it just too much wordsmithing? Is it?
It's so
It's too
challenging. It's
constraining.
limiting. It's limiting. If you gave me a paragraph, I could do that, but it's limiting. 3 lines, and you have to take out the most important parts and limit. I'm limited. It's like trying to make, Christmas dinner with 3 ingredients. It's like, what? Yeah. So
Right.
what about
That's
you, Jen?
interesting.
It's my favorite part of writing, which is why we're such a good team. Like, I love a limitation because it forces me to work harder, to be more deliberate, to really hone in on the craft of writing and the discipline of writing. And ultimately, it helps you clear away all the garbage and get to what your story is really about. And it's
Do we have our log line? What's our current log line? Do you have a copy
our
revision
current
right there?
log line is 2 misfit elves, Meg and Misty, get one chance to restore the spirit of Christmas and get back into Santa's workshop. I think you have a better version of it.
I think mine was a little more succinct, or the one I'd written down from our last meeting. Santa sends 2 misfit elves named Meg and Misty to a small town where they get one chance to restore the spirit of Christmas.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, you ended it with Christmas. That was important.
That last.
Yeah, so in video games, we don't really have log lines, but we do have elevator pitches, which are kind of the same idea.
Yeah.
Where like, if you get into an elevator with someone that could like fund you or like change your life, you want to have some quick way to just get right to the heart of what you're doing. And it doesn't have to be that interesting. It just has to be interesting enough for them to ask the next question to get to the 1 paragraph version. And the 1 paragraph version has to be just enticing enough to get you a coffee meeting, or an email address or a business card, any kind of, next step. So, but I guess I'm trying to think, like Subnautica, we have pillars, which are usually like 1 to 4 core ideas or features that go into a game. But a lot of times over time, you distill those pillars down to a single sentence or a couple sentences. So for Subnautica, I don't know if we had this at the beginning or in retrospect, but my essential elevator pitch is you crash land on an alien underwater world. And first you're just trying to survive, you're catching fish and, just trying to stay alive. And over time, you're building small submersibles. You learn how to build a base, and eventually you dive deeper and deeper, and you want to uncover all the deep secrets in the world and the reasons that you crashed in the first place. That's not quite a log line, but
it's interesting.
It's so compelling and it's visceral and it's
unique,
really stakes, right?
Yeah, because you're already scared that you're underwater.
Okay, so back to the writing process. We kind of covered the log line. We definitely covered Hero's Journey. The beat sheet, had some book recommendations. I'll put them in the show notes. So I didn't really catch, did you guys divide the writing duties? I mean, I know you have great chemistry and you, whatever, just kind of worked together. But was there any separation,
Well, I'm gonna go ahead.
formal separation?
I think during the first iteration of this script, Deb and I think, were more out loud because we had all the time in the world.
And we were
writing
we were in person. We were together at a same table.
and we weren't writing it with any deadline or anybody's budget in mind.
Did you have a goal? Were you trying to get this movie made?
Yes, we were going to get it made, but we wanted to write it the way we wanted to write it. So this was so long ago. This was like 10 versions ago. So it was just a different speed. And I think the world was different then, to be honest with you. I think
Hollywood was definitely different.
Hollywood was, more films were being made. And people were, gosh, I sound so cynical saying this, but people were more open to the idea of kindness and community, and that the world could be a wonderful place. And so now I think we are writing a script for today's world after a pandemic and after a lot of political unrest, and still with that same thematic sort of the violin underneath, which is we can still be a community. We can still have hope. We can still practice kindness, because really, it's all we want, all of us. That really is all we want. So in this version, though, I feel like we are also in different places, literally. Like we both live on the East Coast now. I am often overseas in other countries working. So our process is different. I tinker and structure. We get on Zoom, we read it. Deb says funny things. Deb comes up with ideas. Then we assign who's writing the next scenes. We go away. I tinker and structure. Deb comes in with a fun scene. We start plugging things in. Like I think we both know our superpowers. So we're like, I'm going to tinker and structure. We all know that's going to happen. So let's just have me do that. And then Deb goes, are you sure I'm doing enough? And I go, Deb, you just gave me 30 jokes. Yes, you're doing enough. Or she goes,
very generous.
She does that. So she'll be like, I don't know, what if they did this or this or this? And I'm like, yes, all of those. Right.
It's funny because your background is improv comedy, you said, right?
Yes.
And Deb doesn't have that. You don't have that background, do you?
I do have
But
improv comedy. Yeah.
Oh, you do? Yeah. You did mention that. Okay. Sorry. I wasn't listening.
Now. Yeah. That's okay. I didn't mention it.
Oh, this makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Because it's really funny.
Yeah.
Okay. So did you ever hit roadblocks? And if so, how did you resolve them? Like where one person wanted one thing, the other one wanted something else?
I trust her so much that if there is a block, I let her work it out. She told me a couple of days ago that she's written 60 scripts in 5 or 6 months. So, I'm dealing with a major professional.
Wow.
So I really, I know her superpower, and I know she's more structured. She's just a go-getter and so talented. So I kind of adhere to her a lot of the times. But I will come up with ideas, and then she likes them, or she'll say, well, what about, we just kind of, it makes it work. She's just so seasoned. I let her take the lead on a lot of things.
As a team, we all have our own responsibilities, our core stuff, but we have secondary ways that we can help. One big difference between video games and film. I think you can get a lot closer to final with a screenplay than you can with like a game design document or even a prototype. The tone has been changing recently, and like, where did it start? Did you start with an audience in mind? We talked about Hallmark Channel.
Yeah. Well, we started with feature, I believe. So like a 3-act. And then when we were going to go like the Hallmark route, we toned it down joke wise, made it like less stakes, which a lot of people, I love Hallmark. And we had like 9 acts. Do you remember that, Jen? Because for commercial breaks. And so we wrote it for commercial breaks, and then we brought it back to theatrical. And then when you came on board, you were like, I want the stakes higher. I want more jokes. And we're like, yeah. So we're writing more jokes.
Finally.
So, yeah.
Can you tell me about the 9 act for TV? Just dive into that real quick. How does that work? 3 acts, then a commercial break, 3 acts, commercial break. I don't know what that 9 act is.
Go ahead. Do you want to tell?
Just thinking about the idea of cliffhangers, if you've heard of that before, right? Like where every Yeah, every act has sort of a rising action, and then we go to break, and then we come back and rise and go to break, right? So like, um, thinking of it that way, I think is
So
maybe
you're going to watch the commercial and not leave.
yeah, yeah. You want to
So
see?
how many acts do you have, and then commercial, and then what's the structure?
I think I think there's usually 8, and then a tag usually, right? Like, um,
What's a tag?
a tag would be like sort of the wrap up, but like if it
Denouement.
were it almost like open to sequel, if you think of it that way, right? So, and we've had this film optioned twice, and so everybody has a different um, uh, idea of how they want to sell it or distribute or who their audience is.
But it ends here because we bought it. So
Yeah.
we're done. This is it. There's no more.
Well,
We're not
and
changing it again.
you also are doing the thing that I wanted to do all along with this, which is raise the stakes, open it up to more audience, like a wider audience, and allow us to really celebrate our voices as writers, which is a little more jokey, a little more female centric storytelling too, right? Where we added all these love stories and it kind of started jumbling things up a bit. So really honing in on these two elves again and just how they just need to get it together, which is kind of Deb and I in a way.
I think we also cranked up. I mean, it's also sadder now. There's going to be some major feels here.
Yeah, I hope so.
With Clarence's glasses. We didn't talk about that, but he's colorblind, and the elves can restore his colorblindness.
Yeah.
We talked about, yeah. Anyways, there's some real sad stuff
And
happening
Alma,
here.
she's
One of the characters,
orphaned.
Alma's
Yeah.
an orphan. Yeah, her mom died.
A little girl is losing her way because the town is not remembering how to be kind anymore, and she's losing the memory of her mother.
She's growing out
Which
of the
is-
memory. Yeah.
Yeah, which is got to be really tough for a little kid.
And that wouldn't be okay for Hallmark, but it'd be okay
Exactly.
for
It's
the big
okay for
screen and
Charlie.
Netflix. Yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah. I mean, I think the feels. You want the feels.
Yeah.
You want to
Because
care.
that's life. That's life.
It is life,
Even
and
It's a Wonderful Life is tragic at some points, and which is considered the best Christmas movie of all time. And you touch on these horrible subjects, and then you can come back and actually have a good life.
Well, and we talked about how Christmas is really sad for most. No, I shouldn't say most people, but
A lot of people.
I don't know. It's something like 40% of people are like super sad around Christmas. So I think
think
it's important to show that.
It's a pressure cooker time of year between what's expected, all these movies that show you how things are supposed to be perfect, I think is also a lot of pressure. And then it's the end of a year, which you feel the pressure of reflecting and looking back on what you've accomplished or what you've produced, right? There were a very American kind of values of like, how much did I earn? Who is impressed by me? Has my status raised, right? Like accomplishment, right? So we definitely dabble in those areas in this version of the script for sure.
And for a lot of people, it's financial problems, money problems, family problems, living situations. Maybe someone passed away. I mean, it's getting dark, and then you're missing that person. So, I mean, Christmas isn't always just Hallmark movies, but it's life. And so I think what's great about our film is that it reflects that even though it's in the North Pole, it touches us, touches the soul.
Yep. That's why we're here. So that's why we're making this film. So what makes a great Christmas film? Do you need magic? Do you need heartbreak? Do you need love? Do you need, what do you need? Colors? Anything you think we need in a Christmas movie?
I think first it needs relatability. I think when I'm watching a film, I need to really connect to someone in the story and the lesson they have to learn. And I think it needs lots of comedy because I love seeing over and over again. Once you understand plot, it's like just no one cares anymore. It's those, when you think about the films where you quote a moment over and over again, it's usually either something so deeply touching and heartwarming or the funniest moment in the movie, right? So we always want to kind of grab as many of those as we can in a holiday movie in particular. And I think it always needs the joy of family, whatever that means to people. There's lots of versions of that, but family feels like a really important subject matter at Christmas.
So are we making a Christmas movie? Oh, are we making a Christmas movie or a holiday movie? And then,
Christmas.
sorry, Deb, did you want to
No,
say something?
she said something about families. I'm sorry, about chosen families. And I remember that at the beginning of our conversation. And I was like, yeah, I love chosen families because I come from that too. And I've chosen my family. And you don't always have the nuclear family, but you have your chosen family, which is really, really important. And I think a lot of people are in that position. So
We also talked in our last meeting about celebrating people who are also alone on Christmas.
Yes.
Because many people are.
Yes.
Talk about having an ending scene where everyone is uplifted and heartwarmed, including a couple people or one person who's just totally alone and they're still smiling because they're looking at a picture of someone that they loved.
yeah, I think
They
it's
just are
okay.
happy just to remember them, that they were in their life.
And Christmas is a season. It's not just Christmas. So I think this is more of a holiday film. It's a whole season of stress or a whole season of joy. You get to decide, or it changes every minute. But it's a whole season, and it's a season of reflection. It's a season of checking in for most people in some way. It's a season where I think particularly in the Western hemisphere, a season where everybody slows down for just 1 second, but you rev up to that second. So when everybody slows down, I don't think it's a big surprise that we all get sick around Christmas, like viruses and all that, colds, and everybody kind of breaks down a little bit at Christmas. It's a pressure cooker, right? But it's also this relief.
Yeah, agreed.
And I think whatever you choose, sorry, I'm sorry.
Go ahead,
I think
Deb.
whatever you choose as your tradition is okay. Next year we had so much cooking here and some people got sick. And so we had all this food. And next year we're like, let's just do pizza. And that's okay if we do pizza. It's okay. Whatever you choose to do, take out a 18-course meal, whatever you decide to do with your loved ones, whether it's your dog or 50 people, I think everything is okay. Your traditions are okay. And you can always make new ones.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed. Actually, after our last meeting, we were talking about, how most of us are just running around doing all this crazy stuff for Christmas, and it's hard to just enjoy Christmas. And I thought, I don't need to buy a bunch of people gifts. I'm just going to give some money to nieces, and that's it. I really didn't buy anything. And I actually put, I put all my favorite things under my Christmas tree, like the things that I already have. It's kind of weird. Yeah. This is my favorite board game. This is my favorite wooden spoon. Like just things that I love.
That's
just
a
put
new
it under
That's a great script.
It's like, be happy with, want what you have, basically.
Yeah.
And I don't need anything else. And I mean, some people do need a lot, but anyways. So I wanted to talk, we're going to have a follow-up episode about tips for aspiring screenwriters, because that sounds awesome. But we're probably at time here. We've been going on a while, but I would like to know each of your favorite Christmas movie and why.
I love this movie. Okay, besides It's a Wonderful Life, which is everybody's favorite, or it should be, Chaz Palminteri wrote and directed Noelle with Robin Williams, Susan Sarandon, Paul Walker, Penelope Cruz. Talk about dark. It is so wonderful. And what I loved about it is the characters are having a really hard time. There's 5 people in New York, and they kind of intertwine. I would recommend that. I love that movie. Excellent.
Can't wait. Thank you.
I'm a sucker for a Muppets Christmas Carol.
God.
I just am a sucker for it. And a John Denver Muppets Christmas album will bring me to tears faster than anything else.
Those are great.
But I love all the classics, A Wonderful Life and classic Christmas carols, Miracle on 34th Street. I really love Christmas movies. I also love all the Rankin and Bass, those old 60s television movies.
I don't think I know those.
Oh my gosh, Charlie, that's a whole library of joy for you.
What are they called?
Rankin and Bass created these claymation television.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I know the animated.
In the,
Yeah, I do
yeah,
know
in the
those.
60s.
Yeah, of course I do.
They did a
Sorry.
Halloween one
I know the
too.
name.
Yeah.
Those are amazing.
Yeah. And I love A Nightmare Before Christmas. I know no one likes it, but I do. I think I love Christmas music, and I like oblique stories and the direct stories. I like them both.
It's awesome. I feel like going and watching even more Christmas movies, even
Yay.
though we're supposed to be done with it. That's one really cool thing about this project is we get to celebrate Christmas for basically an entire year
Yeah, I
in
love
some
that.
form.
It's
Pretty great.
research, right? It's research.
Oh, it sounds great.
What's yours? What is your favorite movie, Charlie? Your favorite Christmas movie, and what is your favorite Christmas treat?
Now that you said Rankin and Bass, probably Rudolph, the
Yeah.
original Rudolph
Yes.
animated one.
The
Either
Little
that
Drummer
or A
Boy, isn't
Christmas
that one of
Story.
them too? Yeah, Christmas Story.
I don't think I saw Drummer Boy, but
It's really sad.
I mean, I see Christmas Story every year with my brother.
Me too. That was the other one. I was like,
Yeah.
I have T-shirts. I have all the T-shirts, right?
Yeah, the leg lamp and the fudge. My brother was wearing the fudge.
Fragile.
Fragile, all that stuff. It just, I don't know why I love those. The last thing I was going to ask you is dream cast. If we had any amount of money and anyone could, you could get anyone. Do you have any dream cast for this movie?
Gosh.
Because they could be listening.
Maya Rudolph, of course, with Kristen Wiig. We talked about that.
We talked about that. Yep. Those two keep coming up.
Yeah.
I always wanted Robert Guillaume as Clarence.
I still want Todrick Hall for Clarence.
Oh, him. No, I love him.
We are going to get in touch with Todrick. He would just be fabulous, and he could even do the music for the movie, a couple musical numbers maybe.
See?
Love it.
And he'd bring a huge following, and he's just wonderful.
He is very talented. I would love him.
Well,
Yes, Charlie. Start knocking on doors.
I like Jane Lynch as one of the elves. She's
I don't know
hilarious.
what that is, but
Jane Lynch, she's from Glee. She was the gym teacher.
oh yeah, she's fantastic.
I love her.
Yeah, she's great. Yeah. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you,
I feel like we
Charlie.
need to have some follow-ups here to dive deep on some other things, but this is a good overview. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Charlie.
Thank you. That was the end of the episode for Movie in the Making, and we'll see you soon. Bye.